I would say probably the first thing is overwhelm. So I have the members and I'm reaching out to them one-on-one and I'm talking to them and seeing how I can help. And we've had one member call that has been recorded and is now in the membership. But I guess I'm trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do next, like what the next step is.
I think the biggest thing right now is, it's so easy to go looking 6 months ahead and like, okay, well, how am I going to get these 100 members and how am I going to manage 100 members and how am I going to do this and how am I going to do that? Really, the main thing you got to do when you first launch a membership site is you've got to just really talk as much as possible to the people that do sign up originally. Okay. Not only because, I'm not saying this nebulous thing of we'll do a survey and figure out what they want. It's just to let you get into that rhythm. If you're in a rhythm, you're not overwhelmed. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So if you're talking to them and you're getting information, you're asking them their questions and really just help them one question at a time, just like we do in Flip Your Life. Everybody comes in with these big, grand, meaning of life type questions. And we're like, no, here's your next step. This is put your foot in front of your other foot right now. If you'll just get into a flow for the next 2 or 3 weeks of helping those members one-on-one, because you can do it now, you're going to find a lot more clarity and it's going to calm down. Don't worry about creating 16 courses and relaunching the whole membership to this list and things like that. Right now, it's just focus on the people that you've got.
Yeah, and I would say like 2 things that really help me out a whole lot are batching things in groups. So like for all of your content for the next month, let's go ahead and write that as far as like your blog goes, or, I think you're doing a podcast, right?
Mm-hmm. I am.
So yeah, go ahead and start batching some of that. Okay.
Like this week, get 6 of those done or something.
Yeah. Also batch your emails. So that you're going to send emails out to your members every so often, if it's maybe once a week, if it's every other week, if it's every month, whatever it is, go ahead and get those batched up. Something I did for Elementary Librarian is I wrote a year's worth of emails. So my virtual assistant, they go into a spreadsheet and they get the text from that particular month. Now, there are some things that go into it live, like I do put some things from the forum that have been discussed recently. Like that's one of her responsibilities. But she has an email, she has a procedure, she knows exactly what to do. She goes in there and gets that. And so that's one thing I don't have to worry about every month. I don't have to sit here and say, oh no, it's the 10th. What am I going to put in my member email? No, it's already done.
Basically what Jocelyn's saying is you're probably overwhelmed, not because of the membership. You're probably overwhelmed because you're like, crap, I've got to record a podcast. Crap, I've got to get that thing launched. Shoot, I've got to send an email out to tell everybody there's a podcast. Daggone it, I got to email my members and tell them to come to the member call.
And it can be overwhelming.
And that is overwhelming. But if you can remove all of the stuff that can be batched over a week or 2, at least buy yourself 6 weeks of clarity. Now you don't have to be overwhelmed for 5 weeks.
So now that's not hanging over your head. You now have time to think about how can I serve my members? How can I talk to them and find out what they need to know? And that can also help with your content. So if you're struggling with coming up with things to write about, ask your members, what are you struggling with right now? What could I help you with? Write a response that goes in your membership, but use parts of that response as
in your
part
blog
of your
post.
content.
Yeah, so that's we call that what we do is we call it a content explosion. Like we always start at our forum every day. Okay. We've stopped trying to think of ideas for blog posts or podcasts or anything else. We start with our people and we say, okay, this was a great question. So go write a blog post about it. Or this was a great question. Let's talk about that on our podcast. We've removed overwhelm because we stopped saying, man, I've got to write a new email and a new blog post and do a new podcast and do everything. No, I don't anymore. I pick one thing and I turn that same thing into everything. Does that make sense?
I love that. Yes, I absolutely love that. It makes it so much easier as you're creating content too.
Oh, so much easier. Like, I don't think we've actually had to have any kind of brainstorming session about content in probably almost a year.
Yeah, and we've also had a lot fewer arguments about content.
About what we're going to talk about?
Yeah, because, now we just answer our members' questions. So, it serves a lot of purposes. It serves to create content. It serves to promote the membership because we only talk to our members on our podcast, and it's a great testimonial. We can use this in multiple different ways. So, that's the cool thing about it. But the other thing I was going to say, I said I had 2 things. The first thing was batching. The second thing is procedures. Just have your procedures down. Repeat them over and over and over. This is what we do all the time. When you start getting overwhelmed, fall back to those procedures. It takes a long time to create them and it's not always fun. But once they're done, and you can just kind of go back more on autopilot that way.
Also, too, I think entrepreneurs that are online are the worst people on earth about reinventing the wheel every week. It's like every week you want to like write a new blog post. Every week you want to do a new webinar. Every week you want to do this. Like just do the same thing over and over again, because not everyone's going to hear it the first time. You know? So like don't get overwhelmed thinking, oh, I've got to create all this new content and all this new stuff. Well, you just made a part of your course for 5 people. There's 495 people on your list that have never seen that. We just have to tell them about it. So I think content in your public facing business needs to be batched, but I think you're too consumed with how much content you need to put into your membership. You just need to you just need to keep telling all those other people there's stuff already in there and I'm in there and I'm the content.
I'll tell you a little secret, Cheryl, and this is the same as for people in our membership. I joined your membership probably a couple weeks ago, and you know how many courses I've watched? 0.
She's there to ask you questions.
I'm there to talk to you, and mostly. Yeah. And I think, it's not because I think that it's bad information or that I don't need it. I probably do. But more importantly, I want to talk to people. And, we use our content in Flip Lifestyle to refer people back to.
Right.
So like if somebody asks us a question, we'll say, that's a great question. Check out this training course.
Right.
I talk about this specifically in this training course. Once you've watched it, then come back and comment on it and tell me what you think you need to do next.
We call it just-in-time learning. Basically, like if you'll notice when you join Flipped, the first thing we say is not go watch this video. The first thing we say is go to the general forum and ask us a question right now. Tell us about yourself in the introduction forum, and then go to the general forum and ask us, what are you struggling with right now? Because then we save time by saying, hey, we've got a video about this. Go here. If we don't have a video, then I can answer that specific question.
Or we can quickly
make that training based on something someone actually asked for. We don't have to figure it out. No wasted time.
You just listened to an excerpt from this week's Flip Lifestyle podcast. To listen to the full podcast, complete with the show notes, photos, and links mentioned in the show, click the link on the description below. You can click on these to listen to Shane and Jocelyn answer other important questions about online business from this week's guest. For updates on future episodes, make sure you click subscribe.